What's up, guys? It's Marcus here, and I'm here with Denton Fisher once again. So we're here with part two of our conversation. And it's interesting because we have a lot on our mind when it comes to this current situation, but then also we're going to talk more about what we're going through right now too.
Mhm.
So yeah, what are your thoughts in general in terms of like, what can you do right now in terms of getting better?
Yeah. So me and Marcus here, we were just talking about this. A lot of what we're doing is a lot of self-audits and field reports. I talk about this a lot on my own channel, and you guys who have been watching me for a long time know that I talk about this all the time. But it's the act of using intelligent effort to improve, as opposed to just effort by itself. Because a lot of guys, when they go out, and I think it's the biggest problem, is they'll go out for maybe like 2 years. But the problem is when they go out for 2 years, they're not thinking critically, they're not writing down field reports, not trying to improve in an intelligent way. They just think by the act of the effort they put in it, they're going to improve just by happenstance. And that's not how the way it works. It's intelligent effort on top of everything else.
Yeah, actually, Todd had that story of he had a roommate, I believe, who was going out for 2 years and would do 12 sets a day.
Yeah.
And then Todd asked him, okay, so how many lays have you had this past 2 years doing 12 sets a day? And he said 0. And it was because he was doing the same thing over and over. He got really good at opening because that's what you have to do to start a conversation, but there's like no substance there. So Todd, he started living with this guy, and this guy in the first month got laid. And it just shows the power of, number one, being around the right environment, but also being self-reflective and thinking about what you're actually doing. And what Tony Robbins says is, if something is not working, then change your approach. But you can't change your approach if you don't know what's not working. And the only way to figure that out is to actually either get feedback from someone or to write it down on paper. And that's something I discovered. And that's a pattern that I noticed with the successful guys when I was in the immersion program, when we were both in the immersion program as coaches. I noticed that there was a trend of people who were super successful when it came to improvement and progression in the program. It came down to 3 things. Number 1 was consistently going out, so taking the action. Number 2 was consistent feedback from the coaches. And number 3 was field reports. The most successful guys I've ever seen were actually doing field reports every single day, no matter what. And they had the most detailed field reports as well. And actually something I would add on to that too is what I started noticing is adding emotion and the way you feel into your field report is just as important as what you say and what you did. And I would actually argue that it's more important.
Yeah. Well, I was looking at the reason that I even want to do this talk with you was because I remember you were really aggressive with your field reports. I remember sitting down with you while you're doing a bunch of them. You did them. You do like spreadsheets, stuff like that. You were really adamant about your field reports, and you did them really well. For me, I got lucky because I love writing, so I just did it anyways. But like a lot of people, unfortunately, like it's not the coolest thing to teach or talk about. So that's why nobody ever does. Like no coach, like I don't see a lot of guys on YouTube ever talking about this. But it's like, it's one of the most important factors, and if you're going to improve or not, is if you do field reports. Like if you're not sitting down and you're like not putting the intelligent effort, you're just putting effort in general, it's honestly just got to build up bad habits. You're going to end up doing the same thing every day. And it's going to be harder for somebody else to uproot if you ever get a coach.
100%. And actually something I've done for myself, because I know the value of field reports, is I've been taking sales calls as a business owner, or just, someone who's in business now. And I've taken that same principle of field reports and applied it to sales. So I literally do field reports every day for my sales calls because I know the value of it. And people don't necessarily see it until they've gone through it. And I was that way too. Like I didn't really understand the value of it until I saw a couple of coaches that were doing it every single day. I noticed they had such significant improvements far beyond some of these students like myself when I was in the program and I wasn't doing it. I noticed that there's these other guys who were far beyond what I was doing in terms of their progress every single night. And yeah, it was really that, just having the discipline to take a few minutes of your day and think about and self-reflect and think about, what did I do? What could I do better? And what did I actually enjoy during my interactions as well? It's super important too.
Yeah, 110%. Well, it's like, this is something that I realize that a lot of people don't do, and I've been doing for a long time. It's developing absolute like detail and clarity on what you want out of your life and what you want as an end goal. So a lot of people are like, I just want to get better with girls. Well, you have an idea of what, like, your ideal girlfriend? Do you have an idea of like how many girls? Do you have an idea of like how you'd like structure the relationship? Who you want to be? So for me, it was a lot of, I want to be socially freed up. I wanted to have the ability to be an outgoing person and not have to self-judge myself. It's like, and I know what kind of girl I like in detail. Like I know exactly. So whenever I talk to a girl, it's like that. I know that this is the girl. Like a lot of guys don't do that. And if you don't have all right, here's another thing. It's like, I want to make $100,000 this month. Well, how are you going to make it? Or better yet, like in a year, people say that all the time. I'll be making 100,000 in a year's time, like at least 6 figures a year. Well, how do you plan to make it? Are you do make e-products? Are you going to sell something? Or like, what is your goal? If you, let's say you're a car salesman, let's say you're doing it and you're a car salesman. How do you plan to implement that? Are you going to go out to the lot more? Are you going to study are you going to show up an hour early every day? It's like these guys are making these like very broad generalistic goals, but then they're like, because they're so broad and generalistic, you don't have any steps in between or like a clear-cut path to get that goal. When you say so right now, me and Marcus, we were just talking about this. Like me, I wrote probably a dozen pages of notes of things that I'm going to improve on once this quarantine's over, for my game, for my money situation, for my life and who I want to be. I made a huge list of different things, and now I'm like making a plan to implement it. So once this is all over, I can take it seriously. That's something that during quarantine you can do. Like a lot of people aren't taking that very seriously. It's nice and all to have the dream and make it this fairy tale thing. But I think a lot of people kind of get caught in the fairy tale and don't take the actions and make it a reality. They make it to this thing that they'll have one day, and then they get kind of just like caught up in like the fantasy of it instead of like actually trying to make it a reality.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you bring up the quarantine thing too, is because, a lot of people are in fear right now, have a lot of anxiety about, losing their jobs or loved ones getting sick, or they're just worried about the economy in general. And what I would say is you can choose to view it how you want to. And it's a matter of perspective. So I hopefully with this video as well, and whoever's watching, that perspective is really the biggest thing when it comes to this. And at the end of the day, we can choose to view it as a curse or a blessing. And if we choose to view it as a blessing, we can think about it as this is a time to reflect. And Jim Rohn, the self-development speaker, he talks about there's seasons of life. You have spring, summer, fall, and winter. And depending on which season you're in, it's there's different appropriate behaviors for each season. So maybe in spring, you're planting seeds and experimenting to see what's going to work. In summer, you find something that works and you grind it out and you just hustle as much as possible and put the work in. In autumn, it's a time to harvest and you start to reap the rewards that you set in the spring. And then with winter, it's not always going to go smoothly 100% of the time. So there's a time to reflect and to ponder and to think about what's the next step for the next year. And right now we're just in a winter. And it's incredible to think about because I was listening to Perry Belcher. He's an incredible entrepreneur and one of the best copywriters in the world currently. And he was talking about how all of his biggest businesses he built on the tail end of a recession. The seed of it came from the recession. And that's actually the perfect time to start a business. So there's different ways we can perceive these situations. And depending on how you perceive it is going to determine how you behave. And your behavior is going to determine your outcomes and your actions. And that's going to feed back into your mindset and feed back into your identity. So it's a matter of being able to balance all these things and to realize that the quarantine could actually be seen as a blessing because now we're going to start moving things online. We're going to become much more efficient. We're going to start working remotely. And I understand that people are losing their lives. People are getting sick. And my heart goes out to them. At the same time, we can only control what we can control. And right now, a lot of us are stuck at home. And we can't do anything about the situation that's going on out there. All we can do is control our mindset by turning off the news and thinking about what it is that we actually want to do. Derek's exercise of locking yourself in the bathroom right now is a perfect time. I mean, we're locked in our house anyway. Why not just lock yourself in the bathroom and think about it for 48 hours and figure yourself out and figure out who you want to hang out with, figure out who you want to be as a man, and then come out of this coronavirus quarantine as your second win. This is like your chance, your opportunity to make a difference and impact on the world. So that's my 2 cents on it.
That was really sharp. I love that the whole part with you talking about seasons.
Yeah.
Like, that's exactly what we're in, to be honest. We're just in a winter.
Yeah.
That was really sharp. Yeah, I think people go into two different modes, and it's consistent across the board. So you're either in victim mentality or you're in a winner mentality. You either have this, you're either looking at this as a reason for why your life is failing, why things are sucking for you, which I notice a lot of people are doing. I was hanging out with my friends, they turned on Trump, like while I was talking, and then they put on this one guy who was complaining about the banks and how they haven't given him the money yet for his business. And I was like, well, I see where this guy's coming from. Like, but at the same time, like, he's focusing on the shit that he shouldn't be focusing on. He should focus on what he has control over. Which, what does he have control over? Planning his next step. I mean, honestly, like, worrying and beating yourself up, these things are like energy depleting, willpower depleting. Like, why would you waste your energy on shit like that? Like, you should focus on things that are going to projectile your life. Like Marcus was saying here, you have no control over this. The things that are set in motion, you have no control over. If you're that emotional to where like it's causing you to like kind of to retreat into yourself and kind of like make it really hard for you to focus on what you have to do, maybe take a day, relax, run a tub, light some candles, you know, sob in your tub for a little bit. Once you're done like being a bitch, then you can come out of it and you can start working on this. Like, to be honest, that's exactly what I do. If I ever go through something that's so emotionally tumultuous to where I can't focus on something, I take like maybe like 3 hours off, take a moment, just kind of allow myself to feel the emotions, kind of get myself relaxed. Then once I'm relaxed, I start hitting it. I don't take the time. I'm not gonna like dwell in it and just stay there. Like, I think a lot of people are doing. They're using this as an excuse for why they're failing, and they can blame something else.
Yeah.
Which is why you're gonna fail.
For sure. And I would say definitely like the self-reflection, like remove distractions, because this is a perfect opportunity to do that, where you turn off the TV and you stay off your phone for an entire day. I used to do this like once a month, just anyway. But I used to turn my phone off the night before and not look at the time for an entire day. And I'll just do that once a month just to clear my mind and to get back in touch with who I am. And I would go to the park and I would just sit there for like hours. I guess it was like an Eckhart Tolle thing. I've never read the book, but I've heard that he sat on a park bench for 2 years or something. So I did something very similar. And you could do that in this moment, literally, especially if you just lost your job or you just got laid off and you're just at home, you can't go out, you can't talk to girls, whatever the case may be. Perfect opportunity to go outside, maybe go to the local park and just hang out there for a day and do nothing. Or just stay at home, lock yourself in the bathroom with a notepad and think about who you are and what you want to do. What kind of goals do you have in your life? Because at the end of the day, if you go back out there without any sort of ambition and you come out of this having gained nothing, you're going to regret that, right? Like I would feel like I would regret that if I didn't do anything during this time where we have the space to ponder, the time to ponder and think about who we are and what we want to do. Mm-hmm. I feel like if I never took that time, then I would definitely look back on it. And I was like, I would probably think to myself, like, what was I doing during that time? That being said, I will admit this as well. One more thing is, like, maybe 2 months ago, I was going through like pretty depressing thought. It was like pretty much depression, which I never really experienced that much in the past, maybe like once before, but I think it was because I'm turning 30 this year. And it was so as soon as 2020 came about, I started to think about like, man, I had all these goals. Like I thought I was going to be at a certain point of success. And I thought I was going to be this kind of person by the time I was 30. I'm not really anywhere near that. And I started to feel depressed. And I was looking at pictures of people on Facebook that I went to high school with that are getting married. And I feel like they're way ahead in life, like way beyond where I am. I look at friends on LinkedIn who have job titles at, Silicon Valley companies, and they're executives, and they're friends, like they're my peers, the people I went to school with. And so I'm looking at them at the age of 30 versus myself, and I'm like, man, what am I doing with my life? So I was going through that for like a month, like month and a half, and I was like really feeling sorry for myself. And at the end of the day, I think it's okay at certain points to feel that. And what I did though, is I actually wrote it all down, and I made sure to do that because for me, my outlet is writing. And so I just spent a lot of time, just like any thought that I had, any emotion that I felt, I put it down on paper. This is going full circle back to our original points, is that when you put things down on paper, that's a part of you that you're putting onto that page. And through that process, you're going to learn a lot about yourself, right? So we can use this time to self-reflect, to journal, to write things down, to think about who we are, what we want to do, and what we want to achieve in the future.
Mm-hmm. Well, the self-reflection is massive. I think it comes down to, like we said, it's the intelligent effort. Like, so when you write something down, it forces you to kind of relive it in your head, kind of run it through your head a few times. So I have a lot of tools that I actually use alongside like that. Something I'll do is I'll look to people that have what I want, and I'll be like, well, what is this person doing that's causing him to like get what like that thing that I want? So like I'll look at like the common factors between him and a bunch of other people that have that thing that I want. So let's say it's a lot of money. Let's say like these guys are millionaires. What are all the millionaires doing the same? They're self-educating. They work really hard. They have good work ethic. They have amazing energy. They all work out. They keep their bodies intact. Like there's common factors for people of success. And what I've been kind of realizing is that when you hit those key factors, for the most part, that's like, those are the things that are going to get you exactly what they have. So for me, like I'll sit down and be like, okay, cool. Now these are the habits that I need to put in place to get the thing that I want. Now, which one is the most important thing for me to enact first? Because you can't build a dozen habits at the same time. You can only build one habit at a time. So which one's the most important? And I'll just start hammering that one habit home until it's completely set in stone. Then I'll move to the next habit and the next habit. I think people bite off more than they can chew whenever they start doing stuff like that. Like at first, when I feel like a lot of people start writing the field reports, they start doing self-audits, it's kind of difficult because, like, you can probably contest this. It takes a lot of critical thinking. Like it takes a lot of it takes intelligent effort. Like, so it's not easy to come up with solutions to your life problems. Like, for example, maybe you as a guy, you're having a hard time taking girls home. Well, what's something that like you can like, or let's say it's something like eye contact. Like you can't hold eye contact with somebody. Well, what's the way you can fix that? How about you start holding eye contact with everybody for an entire month? It takes a little bit of critical thinking, not over the top much, but for the most part, like everything, there's a solution to every problem you have. When you put it to pen to paper, it gives you time to like kind of really think it through. If you're just like living your life out, you're just going to be living out your habits. For me, I'll like, if I decide on something like this, I'll put reminders everywhere. I'll put reminders on Post-it stamps, put them right next to my desk. I'll write it on my mirror. I'll put it on my phone so people can see it, so that I can read it. So every time I pull up my phone, I'm like, oh my God, text, I look at my phone as my wallpaper. So I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I was supposed to be focusing on this. And then like that brings my mind right back to it. Like when you write things down, it makes it more solidified. It helps your brain kind of keep more focused, and also kind of, for me, I think I'm way too fucking ADD to like kind of focus on something unless it's written down too. But for a lot of you guys who have a little bit better in that sector, it's still an extremely powerful tool to use.
Yeah, it's something I use quite a bit as well, is just taking the time to write down what I'm going through, whatever it is that I'm going through, whether it's with girls, whether it's with business, whether it's with things in life in general, my relationship. There's just so much power. Actually, Jim Rohn talks about this too in his Ultimate Jim Rohn Library, which I'm quoting a lot, but it's because it's an incredible piece of work. He talks about how it's best when you're trying to solve your problems, big or small, to actually just take them and put it down onto paper. Whatever you're thinking about, whatever you're going through, just put it down onto paper, because there's something in that process where you start to objectify it, and you can see it almost from a third person perspective, and you can start to analyze it and break it down a little bit more, because you're not stuck in your head. You're not having the two voices going back and forth in your head that are having that conversation with one another. Now you have one of the voices on paper, and you can see it, and you can have more clarity on how you want to perceive it and what kind of angle you want to take in solving that problem. And just another part of that is just the emotional release that comes with that too. So it's like a philosophical concept. There's actually, I forgot what it was. I was in some philosophy class when I was in college. It was about like substantiation or some sort of philosophy where they talked about how when you write, it actually is a part of you and you're putting that onto paper. And then I think it's like philosophy of science. And then like even when you burn it or something like that, that's why they recommend, like sometimes therapists, they'll tell you to write something down. Like if you have a guilt or something in the past that you haven't let go of, write it down on paper and burn it or rip it up, because a part of you is now let it go. So that just attests to the value that writing, the power that writing has, like writing it down, journaling, and going back to that idea. And honestly, like field reports were super, super important to me. That was something I was not willing to compromise, because it was simply one of the biggest ROI shifts that I made in order to become better in that area of my life.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like a big factor, focus goes energy flows. Like, so when you write something down, so let's say there's like two different like options. It's like, let's say you're going out blindly and just approaching every day, or you're like going through your success and you're like, I'll be a millionaire one day, but you're not like actually putting in critical thinking. But then like on the other side of things, every night you're sitting down and being like, how would my millionaire version of myself have handled today differently? The fact of like, even if you're not even like thinking critically about ways that you can improve on your, like your current self to get closer to that guy who makes that $1 million, even by the fact of writing it down, you're still putting focus on the fact that, hey, I did great in this area I need to continue doing. But this area over here, what the fuck, man? Like this shouldn't be a part of you. You need to exterminate that. And just putting your focus there, like Tony Robbins says, focus goes, energy flows. That's a massive, putting your mental, like your mental RAM there by itself will help kind of like slowly eradicate and expunge the situation. I find that so often where a lot of people probably contest this. If like when you're living your life, it's like, and you're trying to hold up multiple different things at the same time, it's kind of like spinning plates. It's like maybe you want to go out and you want to like learn how to be better with women. So you start spinning that plate until that plate's spinning really well. Then you want to go and work on your business and your money. So you start spinning that plate. Then you want to start working on your health. So you start spinning that plate. And as you keep spinning the different plates and you're taking your focus away from other areas, what happens to that other area? The plate starts wobbling. It starts falling off. Like you start failing in that area. Like little by little, it starts kind of eroding. I mean, obviously, like you still have your progress that like you're still better off there than you were before, but it's definitely not as good as it was when you're focusing on 100%. The fact that you're focusing on something actually just kind of like builds those areas up. The brain is like very interesting in that way. Like a lot of people call it like a lot of my friends and like people like Marcus here, they push their intelligence really hard and they push their mental skills really hard. And I've heard like, so the guys that you actually hooked me up with the other day, mm-hmm. They called it mental juice. They're like,
brain juice, right?
Brain juice. Yeah. I thought that was really smart. I'm like, yeah. Like, yeah. So we're putting our brain juice into this. Yeah. And it's funny. Every guy successful has a different word for this. It's like,
that was huge because I actually like spent some time with them a couple of years ago. And that was one of the big shifts for me was when they started talking about brain juice. So for those of you that are watching, it's like mutual friends of ours that are very successful in business. And it's just like those little mental shifts, and brain juice is like one of them where they think about, they even are super minimalistic. Like they only own 3 shirts and they only, if you look at the house, it's like totally bare. There's like nothing laying around. It's totally clean and bare and all organized. But it's because the way you organize your physical environment, which I'm kind of guilty. I'm like looking around right now. It's like, it's a fucking mess. But the way you organize your physical environment, that's how organized your brain is. So it's, and even the way you organize your desktop, do you have like 20 tabs open? Or are you just having 3 tabs open? I learned that from Sam Ovens as well. It's like declutter your minds, and the way you do that is decluttering the world around you, and it allows you to flow much better.
Yeah. Well, it's like those guys by only having 3 shirts too. This is a complete different tangent, but like you only have so much willpower, and I know that a lot of people burn up their willpower by having like decision fatigue. Like you sit down to go eat at a restaurant. then you think for 5 to 10 minutes about like what you're gonna eat instead of just making a decision. Like you're burning up that energy where it doesn't need to be burnt. Maybe like we said, like you're putting your brain juice in places that doesn't matter. Like you're using it worrying. You're using it thinking, like worrying about the fact that your business might fail because of COVID-19.
Yeah. Decision fatigue is huge. It just reminded me of this story that I had. Like I was living with Braden in Medellin, and I hope he's watching this. He's gonna laugh when he sees this. Like we were living in the same apartment, and we had this maid, and our very first maid, she would just ask like so many questions, and she would come super early, and so we would let her in, and she would just ask us all these questions. And I was looking at Braden, and I was like, dude, like our decision fatigue's like at 11 right now, and it's only like 9 o'clock in the morning. Like how are we supposed to be successful entrepreneurs if our RAM or our mental capacity is fully taken up by these freaking questions at 9 a.m. But that goes back to the point of like, yeah, it's really important to manage that. And so, you know, we let go of her and try to find someone who didn't ask questions. It was very self-reliant. And by surrounding yourself with people that are in the same sort of wavelength, that align with your values, your principles, and that are self-reliant or independent or whatever you're looking for, that's where you're going to start to find that. I use the word flow a lot, but it's true. You're going to start to feel your life start to flow.
Yeah. Well, it's, I was thinking about this while you were talking too. You were mentioning, you were talking a little bit about, well, here, let me just shoot into it. Along with like all the willpower depletion, like you and me both, we're very much ourselves. Like we don't change up. And I think about that a lot. So what I've been noticing with like people that are kind of on a certain wavelength, like we don't feel the need to put up a front. And there's a lot of people, they'll be a different person with their mom, with their dad, with their like friend, with the girl they're trying to date, with like somebody they want a business proposition with, or maybe somebody they're trying to get a job from, or maybe the coworkers. And when you're doing that, you also burn up a lot of energy by putting up fronts. Like it takes a lot of willpower to like keep a certain personality in front of you, as opposed to when you're just like 110% yourself. Mm-hmm. I think that's a big problem with a lot of people. Most people are like, I'm not good enough, or they want something from somebody else. Like, so you're talking to a girl you think is cute. So you put up this front to talk to her, and you're just burning up so much fucking willpower by being something you're not. Like when you're going through those, when you're trying to do this, when you're trying to like say, oh, look at me, I'm this person, I'm super suave and cool and shit like that. Well, you're burning up energy that could be used in somewhere that's more important. Like us talking about this, like we're putting our brain juice in places where it matters. Like you're putting it somewhere where it's gonna make your life more dull and slow. You're killing your long-term dividends. You're just fucking your shit up.
I'm curious to know, like, you know, we have this situation with the quarantine and all of that, and we're using this time for self-reflection for ourselves. What do you feel like is the best, highest ROI leverage move that people can do, that guys can do out there right now to best improve themselves? Because you can't go out right now. Like there's not a lot of options. So what do you suggest?
Well, I think it's what we've been talking about this entire video. I think the biggest thing is like that one, you sit down with yourself, build yourself a clarity of what you want. Like, what do you want with women? What do you want with like life? What do you want money-wise? What do you want with friends, family? Like, what is your ideal 10 out of 10 version of your life that you would love to have? Like if you were to, if this was a video game and you could like suspend reality for a moment and say, what would I want to be the perfect ideal life? And then like start building steps in between that. I call these clarity reports and self-audits. If some of you guys are interested in checking those out, I actually did make a bunch of templates for this. You can check them out at dentonfisher.com. They're completely free. You just have to sign up to my email marketing list. Once you get that, you're probably going to start getting a stream of content from me. Anytime I post a YouTube video, I'll send it to you. Anytime I post a Facebook video, anytime I make content, I may have deals, you're going to get that straight to your inbox. With that as well, I am actually making a group. It's called the Pen and Paper Project. It's going to be only, it's going to be 15 people maximum that I'm having this group. This thing is going to be massive. Essentially, it's going to be completely based around what we've been talking about this entire video. Self-audits, field reports, clarity reports. Basically, how can I intelligently improve my life? And then what are the actionable actions that I can take to make that life a reality? So that's what this group's about. I'm going to be uploading a video tomorrow about that. But yeah, that's essentially what I'm into. It's mainly going to be the field reports.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'd definitely recommend for anyone that's watching this to take that action and to jump into a group or community just like that, because it's super important more than ever right now. If you're stuck at home and you're kind of bored and you're browsing YouTube or you're browsing Instagram or you're scrolling through TikTok videos, then it's super important to keep our mindset right. And for us to be able to do that, we have to be surrounded around the right people. And we also have to have the right actions in place, or actually that self-reflection is super, super powerful. And I keep going back to that, but it's the most powerful thing that we could do right now because we don't really have that many options. So I would say if you're stuck at home right now, you're looking for something to do, then this is the perfect opportunity to jump into that mastermind and also that group. So yeah, at this point, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing that I would be looking at is doing something like that. And once again, like to look into that, definitely follow Denton's content and also watch out for the pen and paper project. What was the mastermind one more time?
The pen and paper project. I'm going to be uploading a video about it tomorrow.
Okay, awesome. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so definitely check that out. And that's pretty much all I have at this point. But once again, thank you for watching. We really appreciate all of you during this time, especially to have this support, to have this community, and to have this content being out there. I think it's super, super important for us to continue to cultivate that positive mindset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's massive. All right, well, Marcus, do you want to give the guys your Facebook and your YouTube?
Yeah, I mean, like, you guys can look up my name. It's Marcus Awakuni, but my YouTube is just all over the place. So I don't know if you guys are, yeah, you can follow me. I just do like random vlogs and business videos. But,
well, all right, so I'm going to help my friend Marcus out here. Marcus is a very intelligent guy, makes a lot of money. He's actually an ex-RSD instructor along with me. He got amazing results in the RSD crew. And he's also making really good money, and he teaches guys how to do it. If you guys are interested in that, he's a marketer. He's fucking brilliant. I'm gonna leave any like description. I'm gonna leave his Facebook, his YouTube in the description below of this YouTube video. For Facebook, I'll do the same thing.
Well, you just give me goosebumps. That was awesome. I really appreciate that. So what I would say though is if you do have any sort of things that you're going through or you want to learn about marketing, feel free to reach out to me. And I'm not trying to sell anything at this point. Like, I'll help you for free, and we'll message back and forth, and I'll just help you out the best I possibly can, because I know that a lot of you are probably looking for something to do, like how to make money remotely and things like that. So something like Facebook ads or learning advertising or copywriting are perfect avenues to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So
Mark's here's a great guy, so go do it for sure. Yeah.
And same goes for Denton. For sure, check out his dating resources and his mastermind. Very, very important that we take the step to be able to, once again, protect our mindsets, cultivate the right habits moving into the next phase of this. Mm-hmm. So yeah, at this point, once again, we're super happy to jump on and to share this with you guys. And if you have any questions, reach out to us. You're going to have some links here in the description. Otherwise, we'll talk soon. And thanks for watching.
All right, guys. Peace out.
Peace.
Hey. Hit away, I put it down, ho. I'm sipping drink, got my mind though. Still faded off the liquor, I'ma be that nigga, yeah, I bet you 9 know. From that motherfucking ghetto nigga, it's white buildings and them brownstones. Where we tryna make the numbers run, but all we ever see is 5-0. No sleep, got my eyes low. Could you please pray for my soul? Cause I've been thinking about the ones hating and I've been wanting them to die slow. Lord forgive me,